不如用我讀嘅，一種冇。
Please adjust your sitting posture according to the 7 meditative postures of Vairochana. Think, all sentient beings have been my mothers. All sentient beings have been my mothers, not just once, but numberless times. All sentient beings are as kind as my mother in this life. Even though all kind mother sentient beings want happiness and do not even want a small suffering, due to mistakenly engaging with objects of adoptions and objects of abandonment, they do not experience any happiness but suffering. In our minds, sincerely cultivate loving kindness towards all kind mother sentient beings by thinking, how nice it would be if all kind mother sentient beings were to have excellent happiness and the causes of excellent happiness that are virtues. May they have excellent happiness and its causes. I will cause them to have excellent happiness and its causes. Lama deity, please bless me to be able to do so.
Just do what is mitigated. She do it at the way you do it. You are the one to do it. The shame of Lama is
Next week, cultivate compassion towards all suffering mother sentient beings by thinking, how nice it would be if all mother sentient beings were free from all suffering and the causes of suffering that are non-virtues. May they be free from all suffering and its causes. Oh, freedom from all suffering and its causes. Lama deity, please bless me to be able to do so.
I think just the way it's made to that time, you call it as the one of the Kusama, we are on a bit that he never said that the Sanji can be in the body. It was so many other good Sanjila, you see the target of the Sanji can bottom the Tobasha. What does the liberty charge say?
Next week, cultivate bodhicitta. First, we ask ourselves, who should take the responsibility to free all mother sentient beings from the sufferings of samsara and of lower realms? I should take the responsibility. Even though I should take the responsibility, I do not have the ability to do so, to place them in the state of perfect complete enlightenment. Who has such ability? Those perfect, complete Buddhas have the abilities. Therefore, for the sake of all mother sentient beings, by all means, I will achieve the precious state of enlightenment. Next, we meditate on emptiness for a short while. The self and the aggregates do not exist as inherently one, nor as inherently different, thus is empty of inherent existence. Set a good motivation. For the sake of all mother sentient beings, I will achieve the state of enlightenment. For this, I will listen to the holy teaching and practice properly in order to benefit sentient beings. And the outline is contemplation that leisures and endowments are difficult to find. Contemplating that leisures and endowments are difficult to find. And under this outline is an opinion. It will be sufficient to reverse cycle existence by meditating on the meaning of emptiness when one is reborn in a good migration. Then the verse 160 says, life passes by swiftly without purpose. Discrimination is very difficult to gain. How could there be a method to overcome habituation with distractions in that?
Long Pala Bashina, tell how you put dealers but you get some bashi. That is all Pachichura, how you put dealers. It's a good Pachichin, and you move detail about Dova Shevala, how you put details of Pachicheva. You move deal about Dova Shevala. Tell how you put dealers about the Pachicheva. That's some Bashivana, that's the palette to
Yomong gi dun yomong chebala.
or you move details of you move Dijorwa. I want to that Dishi or type with this one as a new move deal part. Washapala Pachicheva. Type this one. You will be dealing about Tomachimachi. You will be dealing with the Toachia, Tobacco, Chamba Shihura, Chamba Chewdy. Then how you do that on a bigger house with the Warwa. Tijikanda, and the Jata, not the Kurolas, but the Pachia Tashichin. So be Julia Jagi Tashichoko. Zupia Yam hair. There's a Kuro Majaya hair, Pitakun, Minion Bush, Tangata, that's a convenient botany, medium botany over it. In that another new the Chaya Pewachi, Kapsi, you don't chill us about the Lilapa, which you up control there, Najim Pewa. The deep Pewachi, then you move the real person, you don't do Marwa, don't do Marwa, that deep Machi or listen. That kind of not to damn chill, real twins, you see, twins, you'll be detail. The detail of Dama can be chill, Naya go. Then I was a road, then I could deal us about the Pachichim. The Zuka Pachichim, this is Palato, Hazan, then Gaji, Hajamo. Amo, a doka, Gaji Mouse, this was the Patacha, yes, what, that deep at the Doka, is that, and that is what. That's how you could use a dig around stuff, dig around stuff.
The double, right?
You take up Pachichi.
Okay. Response: the habituation since beginningless lives in cycle existence with adhering to things as truly existent and distractions such as busyness in cycle existence is very difficult to reverse, whereby how could there be a method to overcome it? For the concordant conditions for reversing it are very few and the adverse detrimental conditions are very plentiful. Even at the time of practicing slightly the excellent Dharma, or excellent Dharma, there too Maras such as Devaputra strive in order that one falls into the great bad conditions. Hence, the adverse conditions to becoming freed from cycle existence are many and are difficult to reverse. So, so since beginningless lives in cycle existence, so even in these lives that we have obtained the leisures and endowments, then in this samsara, then we have this habituations with adhering to things as truly existence and distractions such as business in cycle existence. So no one need to teach us to adhere to things as truly existence, but due to habituations with it, then naturally, then we adhere to things as truly existence, and then we fall, and then we get distracted, such as distracted with busyness in cycle existence. So because of these habituations, therefore, it is very difficult to reverse or avert this cycle existence. And the concordant conditions for reversing it are very few. So it says that even at the time of practicing slightly the excellent Dharma, so even if we have a little bit of time to practice Dharma, but we do not use that time to practice Dharma, but we waste it. We waste it in distractions. We waste it in distractions, and then when we waste it in we waste those times we waste those times in those distractions such as busyness in cycle existence, and then because of these distractions, then those Maras, the sons of the Maras, then such as Devaputra, then they will cause obstacle. So how do they cause obstacle is, so when we are trying to free ourselves from the Maras of afflictions, or when we are trying to overcome or destroy the Mara of afflictions, then these Maras such as Devaputra, then they will cause these obstacles to us, so that we will not be able to free ourselves from afflictions. such as by increasing our attachment to those lovely things, those attractive things, and then by increasing our anger, and then and other afflictions such as pride and so forth. So this is how they causes obstacle to us when we are trying to practice the excellent Dharma, even with a very little time we have. Then and even within this little time we have, then we fall under the control of distractions. Then those maras cause distractions, and we are not able to free ourselves from the maras of afflictions. And next is another reason to indicate that it is very difficult to find. So the opinion says, when one is reborn in a good migration, due to cultivating faith in the truths, the three jewels and so forth, one will be freed from cycle existence, whereby it is not difficult to gain. Then the next two lines of verse 161. At that, wrong paths are abundant and doubt is difficult to overcome. Response: even there, when born in a good migration, wrong paths that fall into the extremes of permanence and annihilation, which are discordant classes to the correct views, are abundant. So even if one is born in good migration, but there are many wrong paths that falls into the extremes of permanence and annihilation. So the extremes of permanence is the view that views extremes of permanence views the self as being permanent, and the extremes of annihilation views the self as being annihilated. So the extremes of annihilation views the self as being annihilated. So these are the concordant causes to the correct views, and they are abundant. One is led to them by wrong spiritual guides, and he also indicates how important it is to properly find a spiritual guides or a spiritual friends, because they are wrong spiritual guides as well. So when one is led to them by wrong spiritual guides, and doubt in which one has misgiving about the correct path is difficult to overcome, since the outer and inner conditions for eliminating doubt are difficult to gain. So in fact, in relation to those correct paths, then we need to develop faith and then we need to develop conviction. However, due to doubt, then we are not able to develop conviction in the correct path. Instead, then we doubt, we have doubt or we have misgiving about the correct path, and then due to this, then it's very difficult to overcome. So since outer and inner conditions for eliminating doubt are difficult to gain, so we need to develop the correct view. So the correct view, and in order to develop correct view, then we must have conducive conditions. So and strong conducive conditions in order to counteract those discordant conditions. And if we those discordant conditions, they link, they connect with another. One connect with another. Those discursive thoughts, those discordant conditions, those doubts. So one links to another. So if one has one discordant condition, then it will easily link to another discordant conditions, and then it makes it very difficult to overcome. Opinion, even though I may not gain it in this life, it is sufficient that I search out a spiritual teacher and practice in the next life. In relation to this opinion is verse 162, says, leisure is hard to gain again. The occurrence of a Buddha is extremely rare. The river of afflictions will be difficult to abandon. At last, suffering flows.
뇽무지 휴청벌레 뜻가가 때깔려레스 그와 그 타바 마토바다 간다들이 소소 타바 마토바다 단 뇽무바데 간다 초진하시 그래서 뭐지 레드레스 그와 레그레스 그들이 손자 아 간다 그런데这个 리신이的 체질가다 다와진 좀 빠져서는 얘기 체발이 토도가서 다 몇째 제보를 해서 다 에마시바 간다 쪼이 안에서 그러와 이게 마지바이나 빼 내내 탑쪽으로 해서 왔다 간다. 대상분들 리치다 리신이 리치 채워도 다 몇점 마시 봐야 되는 몇점 마시 봐야는 뜻배지 쪽으로 해서 하자. 예, 세 방법을 해서 와. 세 방법을 해 간다. 동안에 타투고 말이 야 동아지 타와라 간다. 아디 단지 토비 기서 다 니미스라 상호다. 와, 니미스 상호다 대상분들라 그 간다 내가 제보를 해서 다 도도 돼. 와. 내가 제보를 했어. 다 단지 토비 와서 거의 니미라서 당 내서 뭐라 다 내버려와. 거의 니미라서 당. 다 영어도 니미다 거의 니미서 상호다. 근데 내가 제보를 해서 그다.
Response: if one does not make effort well when one has gained a spiritual teacher in this life, leisure is hard to gain again from the next life onwards. The arisal of a Buddha in the world is extremely rare, hence it is very difficult to also meet a spiritual teacher. Even though one has already met a spiritual teacher and obtained a good support of leisures and endowments, if one does not make effort well with conscientiousness, the river of affliction will be difficult to cross because one should make effort continuously until liberation is attained. And so this is very true, right? And when if we do not make effort when we meet a spiritual teacher, a proper spiritual teacher, and he showed us the path, like Buddha Shakyamuni. So, and if we still do not make effort, then it is very true that once we are born in the hell realms, then even if Buddha come right in front of us, then we will not Buddha will not be able to save us from the hell. So therefore, we need to put in effort according to the guide given by the spiritual teacher. And these spiritual teachers, like Buddha Shakyamuni, so how they help us or how they save us is by showing us the path, clearly showing us the path, and then we need to walk the path. We need to follow the path taught by the spiritual teacher. So showing where in following this road, then it will ends up in a good directions, in a bad directions. This is a white path, and then that is a black path, and etc. So wholesome path or unwholesome path. And then by following this path, then we will be able to reach a good destination. And then if you were to follow another path, then you will not be able to reach the good destination and so forth. So this is how we are saved by the guides given by our spiritual teachers like Buddha Shakyamuni. So if we think that it's okay if I don't make effort in these lives, then since I will gain precious human rebirth again next time, then practice Buddha Dharma or meeting a spiritual teacher is not difficult. So don't mention about meeting a spiritual friends again. Don't mention about getting or obtaining a precious human rebirth with 8 leisures and 10 endowments. Then just obtaining a human rebirth itself is very difficult. So don't mention meeting a spiritual guide or obtaining a precious human rebirth with 8 leisures and 10 endowments. So therefore, we need to make effort well with conscientiousness. And the river of afflictions will be difficult to cross. Afflictions is likened to a river from a high mountain, and then it will just go pour down, and it will just flow, and then the current of the water is very strong. So when the current of the water is very strong, then it's very difficult to stop the river from flowing, right? So afflictions is likened to a flowing river. So when the current river is so strong that it's very difficult to stop it until you attain a liberation. So And alas has the meaning of discouragement and disheartenment. Suffering flows one after another, hence there is great suffering. For although one may become free from one, then one falls into another suffering again. So alas is a word of discouragement and is a word of indicates how pitiful it is if we do not cherish what we have obtained. So therefore here it talks about it is the difficulty to obtain leisures and endowments, and also talks about contemplation of contemplating the disadvantages of samsara and afflictions. Next outline is self and others tormented by samsaric suffering are pitiful. Self and others being tormented by samsaric suffering are pitiful. Under this outline is verse 163, says, these abiding in the river of suffering, who although suffering immensely in that way, do not see their own suffering, alas, they are pitiful. These sentient beings abiding in the river of suffering, who although suffering immensely in this way, hold suffering as happiness, do not see that they are sinking in their own suffering. So, and this relates to our usual meditation, the meditation that we usually do at the beginning of the class. So, and in relation to those samsaric sufferings, because of these who wander in samsara due to karma and afflictions, and they experience extreme sufferings, and however they still regard those sufferings as happiness. So here it says hold sufferings as happiness. So they hold or they regard suffering as happiness, and they do not see that they are sinking in their own suffering. So in relation to these sentient beings, then out of compassion, by means of thinking, whoa, how wonderful it would be if they were free from suffering, and so forth. So and so forth means that how wonderful it would be if they were free from suffering, and may they be free from suffering, and I will free them from suffering. So that is what it means by means of thinking. how wonderful it would be if they were free from suffering and so forth. And one should make effort in cultivating great compassion, since sentient beings sunk in the mud of suffering are pitiful. So, and this also relates to our meditation also, when we say sentient beings due to mistakenly engaging with objects of adoptions and objects of abandonment. So that is what it means. That is related to those sentient beings, samsaric suffering sentient beings who hold suffering as happiness and do not see that they are sinking in their own suffering. So they are mistakenly engaging with objects of adoptions and objects of abandonment. They hold it the other way around. So they hold suffering as happiness. And these sentient beings are the objects of observations of our cultivations of compassion, those samsaric sufferings. So with compassions and then with loving kindness, then we should generate this thought, thinking how wonderful it would be if they were free from suffering. May they be free from suffering, and then I will free them from suffering. Next verse is verse 164, says, "It is like one who repeatedly washes himself and then enters fire again and again. So he prides himself in being happy, although he abides in immense suffering." It is just like some non-Buddhists, and this is similar to the previous explanation as well. And then it is just like some non-Buddhists deceived by wrong teachers, who repeatedly washes himself and then enters fire again and again. So he prides himself in being happy by holding that itself to be the method for attaining liberation, although he abides in immense suffering due to being tormented by austerities of the body. So some non-Buddhists, they are led by wrong teachers or deceived by the wrong teachers, and then they were led to the wrong paths, and then they engage in activities, thinking that if they cause suffering or difficulties to this body, and then these become the methods for their own liberation. So, for example, they jumps into fire, they jumps into water, or they jump over a trident, or they cut their bodies, or basically they cause lots of difficulties and injuries to their bodies, thinking that these are the methods for attaining their own liberation. And however, And however, according to our Buddhist point of view, then these precious human body with leisures and 10 endowments are difficult to find. So we need to properly utilize this body in order to attain the state of enlightenment. So this is this view. This view is not the same as the views of a non-Buddhist. Next verse, verse 165 says, those abiding in that way, behaving as though there is no aging and death, first they are killed, and then they proceed to the unbearable, falling into the bad migrations. Those sentient beings abiding like this, so sentient beings refers specifically to ordinary beings. So they're abiding like this, behaving as though they are full destroyers with no aging and death. And in stages, first they are killed by the unpretentious Lord of Death, who is not one to be hated, and then go to the unbearable suffering of falling into the three bad migrations. So those sentient beings, they think that they are like full destroyers who is not going to experience aging, death, and sickness. So then they indulge themselves in happiness, such as just enjoying delicious food, and then they just engage in a pointless talk, and then they just indulge themselves in laziness and unconscientiousness and so forth, and thinking that they will not go through aging, sickness, and death. And then once the Lord of Death has arrived, then there are no way to stop the coming of Lord of Death. And once the Lord of Death has arrived, they have no choice but to lose their life and then go to next rebirth. And then they will go to the unbearable sufferings of falling into the three bad migrations. So therefore, it's very important. We should cultivate compassion, and then we should put effort in remembering death and impermanence. Just as Kadampa Lama Geshe-Potowa says, there is not a day has gone by, not a day has gone by not a day has gone by without meditating on death and impermanence. So he's referring to himself that not a day has gone by for me to not meditate on death and impermanence. So if we think about this death and impermanence properly, then this remembrance or this meditation itself, it really pushes us or urges us to Dharma, to practice Dharma. Next outline is indicating the modes of apprehension of great compassion. Indicating the modes of apprehension of great compassion. Under this outline is verse 166, says, in that manner, when may I pacify those tormented by the fire of suffering with the rain of accumulations of happiness springing forth excellently from the clouds of my merit. Thus, in the manner previously explained above, having contemplated well the way in which those who have come into the streams of unbearable suffering are tortured by suffering, through observing those sentient beings tormented by the fire of suffering in this way. So as mentioned just now, we are in the context of talking about cultivating compassion, and we need to cultivate compassion upon observing suffering sentient beings, then such as those sentient beings being tormented by the fire of suffering in this way, who experience unbearable suffering. So I wonder, so when might I, so is thinking about, or when can I, or when will I pacify the sufferings of their bad migrations with necessities of happiness, such as medicine and food, springing forth excellently from the clouds of my merit of generosity and so forth. Meditate on great compassion, thinking if only sentient beings can be liberated from the sufferings of the bad migrations. So in other words, it means that how wonderful it would be if sentient beings were free from the sufferings of bad migrations. May they be free, and then I shall liberate them. And also, Lama, please bless me to be able to do so. So these three are explicitly indicated, and this is what we do in our meditation as well. And then Lama, please bless me to be able to do so is implicitly indicated. Verse 167. Once shall I respectfully collect the accumulations of merit in a manner of non-objectification and teach emptiness to those ruined by objectification.
사리 당원의 손이 타입의 사리 사도 사리 림바 힘이 미비 코아 공화지다 근데 딘지로와 모든 코아는 공개 단계에다 딘지로와 림바 힘이 딘지티 미비 등 코아는 공화지 생겨나 뭐 코아는 힘이 생겨나 이 거의 등한테 봐 시체도 거라 거의 등한테 봐 시체도 동반지 되는데 그와 동반이는 땜바 대로와 땜바 주는 뜻인지 거의 등한 동반지 되는데 땜바 땡고 생겨나 코아를 좋아하시는 거라 코아 좋다 근데 네가서 간다 시험을 손이 보고와 손이 사는도와 선하지 더 힘받아서 말해 무슨 선하지 처리사 생기다 봐 돈을 줘야지 들어와 지금 그 이히소리 땅에서 동반지 되도 들어와 동반지 되도 같이 되도 같이 다 들리게 동반지 되면 유는 뜻인지는 거의 동안 자나 좀 저와도 다그셔 예 저들인지 뭐 대화인도와 저와다 그셔 자나 지금 저와다 그셔 는 들리는지 보고는 저와도 같은 가서 다시 보관하시 자나 지금 저와 치지 저와다 그셔 되시는 거 아마는 신기하다 다 보다 대가로 보다 대가로 나는 네가서 가서 손이 사야 돼 내고와 세바 동안에 줘야지 들어와 손나지 문이 사야 돼
Sonam di choi na jan jimba ne samten paduro.
jimba smarwa
Jimba ne samten paduro.
jimba tse seba tinji sonde zwa
De ye
shero de toda shero toda tomba to beda shero kama derwa wo dish de ande chila usta de wa sharwa
koma chao so.
kuma shao se
Make wishes in the following way to be the causes of freedom from the sufferings of cyclic existence. When shall I respectfully collect the accumulations of merit, of generosity, and so forth? The methods for that in a manner of possessing the wisdom of non-objectification, the realizations of emptiness of inherent existence of all phenomena, and teach emptiness for the sake of pacifying the sufferings of cyclic existence to those sentient beings ruined in cyclic existence by objectification that adheres to true existence. Wondering like this, meditate on great compassion, thinking if only sentient beings can be free from the suffering of cyclic existence, I shall liberate them. So, and then make wishes or make aspirational prayers in this way, and then which becomes the causes of freedom from the sufferings of cyclic existence. So when will I respectfully collect the accumulations of merit, of generosity, and so forth? And here the methods for that. So here it indicates the accumulations of merit of merit. And here's from the generosity, morality, patience, joyous effort, and also concentration or concentration. Then this constitutes the accumulations of merit, which is the method, in a manner of possessing the wisdom of non-objectification, the realizations of emptiness, of inherent existence of all phenomena, and teach emptiness to sentient beings in order to pacify their suffering. So this indicates the accumulations of merit or wisdom. So here it talks about, in brief, it talks about the accumulations of two types of merits, and then teach emptiness to those sentient beings who are ruined in cyclic existence by objectification that adheres to true existence. So when can I do that? So wandering in this way, then meditate on great compassion, thinking if only sentient beings can be free. So in other words, is how nice it would be if sentient beings were free from the sufferings of samsara, and then may they be free from samsara, and I will free them from samsara. Ama, please bless me to be able to do so. So the way of doing the meditation is exactly the same.
땡 빼려와 이 동안에 봐 도와디 코드나는 때때라 이 바바 소리 때 민지 공부를 해서 간다 맞아 민지 bomba지 지고 맞대 이 현대 코드나는 민지 공부와 답에 민지 니 나랑 뭐 쓰고 보세 현대 와 예 민지 코드나지 어디 다 간다 동안에 자와상 지금 많이 봐 심지어는 동안에 자와상 동안에 자와 나랑 코드나는 지금 상관 때 민지 공부했어 무슨 민지 친구였어 와 민지 친구들 무슨 나지 동화사 전에 좀 말은 민지 레와 근데 레바데 맞아 근데 맞아 답 샤우는 맞아 지시고 와 원이지 어디 들리지 모르겠어 네 민지 동화사 전에 좀 모르는데 자와다 나랑 한테 코드나는 지금에서 들리겠어 이거 친구 좀 그래서 맞아 좀 지금 민지 있어 와 어디 들리지 좀 나오다 담으리 덴딩이 이제 상고 들리지 상고판에 되게 산지지 공부하는 데 생겨라 추 상고판이다 저 칼이 나히데 들리지 토는 템바 유아 인상 리상 타고 있어와
And objectification that adheres to true existence, in other words, is true grasping. Objectification that adheres to true existence is true grasping. So, and a fully qualified great love and compassion included within the Mahayana path must wish to place sentient beings in the perfect, complete Buddhahood that possesses every happiness and is free from all suffering. Yeah. So, so when we say that when we cultivate great compassion, so it is not sufficient. It is not sufficient just to generate the attitude, thinking how nice it would be if all sentient beings were free from suffering. So this may they be free from this yeah. So how nice it would be if they were free from suffering itself is not sufficient. So when we say that we need to cultivate great compassion, then we need to, on top of that attitude, then we need to take upon ourselves others' welfare. So we need to take others' welfare as our own burden, and then it means that we should do so. We should free them from suffering. So therefore, the third attitude, which is I shall free them from suffering. So that's why when we do our meditations, and how nice it would be if they were free from suffering, may they be free. And then I will free them from suffering. So the third one is taking others' welfare upon oneself. Then we free sentient beings from suffering, and then must wish to place sentient beings in the perfect, complete Buddhahood that possesses every happiness and is free from suffering. So generate great compassions in order to achieve the state of enlightenment. In order to achieve the state of enlightenment, so that I can teach the profound emptiness to those sentient beings in order to free them from suffering.
신이 경고 보셔야 돼. 어때야? 내가 미소도 나가서 나오는데 나서도 맞지. 딱 가서 담에 되셔도 와. 나오는데 나서도 맞지. 공부를 따봐서 그 다시 공부를 가서 공부에서 다시 잡는 거. 그 다시 공부를 통해 샤바 장지해. 샤바 장지해 뭐도. 딱 그런 다시 공부를 맞대 봐. 그러고 이쪽밖에 안 맞겠어. 그러와. 다시 공부를 통해 샤바 장지해. 그 샤바 장지해 뭐도 공부를 맞대봐. 저기 주바다. 그게 진짜 주바다. 정말 딜로스 주바. 중재자요 말이에요. 그래서 다 근데 비시고 봐. 그래서 말했어. 그 강사가 탄이디요. 강사 탄이디요. 봐대. 안다 요새로 보라 가서 강사서 요새를 내려오고 말와. 그래. 탄이디요. 봐대. 니기 샤바장에 맞더라. 니기 탄이 샤바장다. 다니 요바. 다시 공부를 때니 다니 요바지.对比自己要把困难人马都给到了马地吧，那让一要马的事，让一没到那个地上的，叫我去过的事，没几个生活的事，我说吧，
In brief, one should meditate on the meaning of the modes of abidance in dependence on karma abiding. Further, the I, when one thinks of I, is nothing but perceived as a mere imputation upon the aggregates, is not established is not established inherently by way of its own character in a manner of independent abidance, even in the slightest. So here he talks about the selflessness of person. So, and when we say this I or the self is nothing but perceived as a mere imputation upon the aggregates, and aggregates are the basis of imputation. And without depending on the basis of imputation aggregates, then I cannot be, I or the self is not established inherently, is not established by way of its own character, is not established in a manner of independent abidance. In other words, is in a manner of self-power. And another common translation for this is the self is not independent, is not independently established. So not even in the slightest. Thus, the existence of a person. So the existence of a person here also relates to our assertions. We do assert persons exist, and we do not assert a person do not exist. So the existence of a person, so which is what we assert, person do exist, is merely imputed by conventions of name, and having been imputed, it exists. It is only existent in a manner of reliance. So without without a reliance on aggregates, then the self cannot be exist, or a person doesn't exist. Thus, it lacks inherent existence. Thinking like this, take it to mind, and you should likewise contemplate by applying it to all phenomena, such as the aggregates.
내비게 둘라 점바 쳐버렸어. 점바 쳐버렸어. 근데 점바 쳐버려 마도 내가 봐셔 자라 되니 내가 하는 뒤에다 내가 누르 노상법 템바니기 돼. 마와디 대신들이 뭐뭐도 간다 누르는데스. 누르 있어서 그 넘치는 템바지 이 여바이나 내가 좀 쳐버렸어. 좀 되는 데가 쳐버렸어. 왔다 간다. 근데 쳐버렸어.
Kung ini di anggang lah ni di jisi jizun tambah mani apa di yang kashi si kata cikan kashi ini di yang kayak di sini kalau nak kisah, kan? Tanda ini di sini di sumi tua, tambah ini di yang kisi di yuna, sini di kisah ni kang tiba di ni, tambah yuna, cikan tambah kashi.
jisi tambah mani apa doa? Tak kanda jisi sibi tawa jilang, tapi mani apa doa? Tak kanda sanji kuat mani apa doa? Mani apa doa? 그 시비 자와지 남다. 좋아? 남데. 나다. 인주 타다 그 엄마네. 그 많이나 가서 그 산지 공부 토토 말해서 와와. 토토 말해서. 그 데리 시비 자와지 나다. 인주 타다 자기 엄마가 나한테 그 나한테 비나 초자시 또봐 맞아. 나한테 초자시 또 마도 장하려 왔다 간다. 그러고 메시지 보러 초자시 또봐 맞지 되세. 또 이나 그 달라 간 레버 해봐. 진이 여바데 강 시바도 와라 간다. 강 레버 시바. 진이 여바데 여바데기 에서서 자이라마 카두 자이라미 카두 디레스 강 시바데. 시바데 라미 카두 디레스. 라미 카두 바스다. 데데 시비 겨와데 시비로와 스스 시비. 아이가 주tem바다 체조 좀바다 데와 간다 데와. 좀바 참마 겨와데 내가다 마 누가 마지 타다는 세계 탄지 대화 중에 신이다 제가 주지에서 대체를 방어하지. 사소하지.
Then Gisa Rinpoche says, until I found the excellent Venerable Tsongkhapa, I had not realized even the portions of dependent arising, middle free from extremes, the paths that severs the root of cycle existence. So in order to achieve the state of enlightenment, then we must find the path that severs the root of cycle existence. And then and I had not realized even a portions of dependent arising, the middle free from extremes. And then this Gitsab Rinpoche then holds a lower position by saying that I had not realized even the portions of dependent arising, the middle free from extremes. And then all of whatever good explanations are present in me. So whatever good is the kindness of the Guru, may this virtue become the cause. So this virtue refers to the virtue of explaining, then become the cause for all my mothers to meet the Mahayana spiritual friend. Then, without realizing the principle of the middle free from extremes. So the principle of the middle free from extremes refer to the meaning of emptiness. So without realizing emptiness or without realizing the meaning of emptiness, then one will not be able to contact the state of the supreme ayas. One will not be able to attain the state of enlightenment. Hence, having decisively analyzed that emptiness means dependent arising, strive to properly accomplish with effort. So proponents of the two truths of Nagarjuna's excellent system, difficult to find even in billions of eons, will vanish from this land before too long. Therefore, discriminating ones quickly generate joyous effort. So those discriminating ones or intelligent ones, so quickly put in effort, properly put in effort and quickly put in effort and to analyze. Here he says, having decisively analyzed that meanings, that emptiness means dependent arising, right? So we should quickly and properly put in great effort and to analyze to analyze emptiness with many reasonings. Our next outline is title of the chapter, the 9th chapter on the perfection of wisdom from engaging in the deeds of a Bodhisattva. And this is the commentary on the 9th chapter called the perfection of wisdom from the explanations of engaging in the Bodhisattva Deeds called the entrance for the children of conquerors. So this completes the chapter 9. Then we will go to chapter 10. Chapter 10, dedication. And the first outline is brief indication through dedication for all migrating beings to engage in the deeds of a Bodhisattva. First verse says, by whatever virtue there is due to my having composed engaging in the deeds of a Bodhisattva, may all migrating beings engage in the deeds of the Bodhisattvas. So this is the dedications by Shantideva. So Shantideva says, whatever virtues of explaining these treaties, hearing, composing, and thinking about the meaning, so may all migrating beings engage properly in the deeds of the Bodhisattvas. So this is the brief explanations of the first verse. The next outline is dedication for temporary happiness. And under this outline is verse number 2, says, however many sick people they are suffering in body and mind in all directions, due to my merit, may they obtain an ocean of happiness and joy. So here it talks about pacifying undesirable, temporary undesirables such as sickness and violence or harm, pacifying these of sentient beings, and then may sentient beings be filled with the oceans of happiness and joy. So it's physical happiness and also mental joy. And the next outline is dedication for ultimate happiness. And under this outline is verse number 3, says, for as long as they remain in cyclic existence, may their happiness never decline. May migrating beings obtain an uninterrupted flow of unsurpassable happiness. So here is to dedicate, may all sentient beings obtain an uninterrupted flow of unsurpassable happiness. So so may all sentient beings obtain enlightenment, which is an uninterrupted flow of unsurpassable happiness. And this is a dedication for ultimate happiness. So here we are doing, we are making dedications. So in relation to oneself, then we can think in this way, and we should think in this way as we go along the verses in the chapter of dedication. So in relation to Bodhisattva, so whatever roots of virtue that I accumulate through explaining, through listening, through contemplating, through meditating on Bodhisattva. So whatever roots of virtue that I have accumulated in relation to Bodhisattva, together with any roots of virtue that I have accumulated since beginningless time. So I dedicate my merits, my roots of virtue in this way. So then you can follow these verses of dedication and make dedications accordingly. Next outline is dedication for pacifying the general suffering, and under this outline is verse number 4. Says, however many hell beings there are throughout the realms of the worlds, may those embodied beings be delighted by the happiness of Sukhabhati. And this is under the outlines of dedication for pacifying the general suffering. So generally, we dedicate our roots of virtue for generally pacifying the sufferings of hot hell, cold hell, thirst, hunger, and so forth. And may those wretched due to cold obtain warmth. And then this is and is under the outline of dedication for pacifying the sufferings of the cold hell. So yeah, so and when we talk about cold hell, then there are 8 cold hells, and then such as the blisters and so forth. So basically, the meaning is for as long as sentient beings migrating, so for as long as these migrating beings remain in cyclic existence, may their happiness never decline. Sorry. Yeah, here. So, So however many beings of the hot and cold hells there are throughout the realms of the world which reach the ends of space, may those embodied beings, having pacified the hell sufferings, be mentally delighted by the happiness of the land of Sukhabhati.
그 투지기 진짜고 데려주는 초 타여버려 차이 넘다 당가서 차이 동안 뭐 써야 돼. 다들 저희 동안 그래서 들어와. 나 차이 동안 양도받아 되게 양도받아 차이 동안 양도받아 저거 쓰고 쇼사 이些뭐지. 뭐 디치 아니야. 그래도 사단 차이 동안 있다.
And next three lines of verse number 5 say, may those wretched due to heat be cooled by the infinite rivers arising from the great clouds of the Bodhisattvas. And then here is the dedication for pacifying the sufferings of heat. And the meaning of these three lines is, may those wretched due to heat be cooled by the infinite rivers arising from the great clouds of exalted compassion, which are the Bodhisattvas' collections of the two accumulations.
어디 오는 것도 내가 저절로 민나사야 데라가서 누구 주셔만 내이 동보야 어서 힘도 두바이 토리는 거다 나와 동바다 그래서 피는지 되지 빼마주도 지기 소다비 나이 사셔도 양가 쉬워서 단 년고이 동안 쉬어야 이거 데리와 나와 봐도 저거 나와 년고이 동안 단 년고 동안 마무리 다 간다 저절로 민나사서 저다 와 자치자마를 동거서 체마 답소리 딱 가서 동화자와 년고이 동화 딱 쉬어야지
Next outline is dedication for pacifying the suffering of neighboring hells. Yeah. So and then under this outline is verse number 6 and 7. Say, may the forest of sword-like leaves also become a pleasant grove. May the shamali trees too grow into wish-fulfilling trees. May they be purified by the melodious calls of wild duck, geese, and swans. May the regions of hell become charming due to pools of large and sweetly fragrant lotuses. So in the neighboring hells, and they are the sufferings of they are those sufferings when one have the experience being cut by sword-like leaves, or when one climbs the Shamala trees and then there are thorns turning downwards and etc. When one climb up and etc. So one experience all sorts of suffering there in the neighboring hells. And then next outline is dedication for pacifying the suffering of actual hell realms. Dedication for pacifying the suffering of actual hell realms. And under this outline is verse number 8 and number 9. May the heaps of coals also become piles of jewels. May the burning iron ground be revealed as crystal floors. May the mountains of mass destruction hell become mansions of offerings filled with sukatas. May the rain of glowing cinders, burning rocks, and weapons from now on become a rain of flowers. May the striking of each other with weapons from now on be a playful tossing of flowers. So in the actual hell realms, one experiences suffering such as being put on the lay down on the burning iron ground, or being squeezed in between mountains of mass destruction, who are it looks like a goat head. The mountains look it resembles a goat head, and then in between the mountains, then one is being squeezed and etc. So and then also those glowing cinders and burning rocks, then it rains down, and then one experiences all sorts of sufferings of heat.
어디 주로 그때 가다年会 동안 신 시와치는 거야. 저러와年会 동안 신 시와고한테 딱 간다出去 야 코네 저 되게 나와 아 내가 되나도 봐또 저下的过程把叔叔被撤了你等有了吧那你们知道学起的东西吧那你们知道吧现在但他可是说吧他的但他们那个天气就是真不能去但是这一你今年把学我说电视的东西东啊在把站里吧东啊在把站里那真不可能那他们那个天气就是真不能去好像在那搞多一个吧一共的东啊的出去恐怕在处理来做研究的话 소치는 우리의 저 매장시 실력이 shadow report 치바신 실력이 동아 텔레폰 전에 다 맞아 전부기 쳐 한번 하다 봐 현지도 맞아 취지 전부기 쳐 리나로 봐 다른 현지도 봐 디지 제모이 봐 리지 돈 많이 봐 쉬워서 다 디지 돈 많이 쉬워
Next outline is dedication for pacifying other sufferings of neighboring hells. And under this outline is verse number 10. 10 says, may those drowning in the fire-like river without ford, their flesh entirely disintegrated and their bones the color of kunda flowers, attain bodies of gods by the force of my virtue, and then dwell with goddesses in gently flowing streams. So here it talks about other types of sufferings in the neighboring hells. So for example, one is being one is drowned in this river without fault, and then one is boiled in the molten copper or molten metal, and then one's flesh is all burned up, and then even to the bone, and all roasted, and attain the excellent bodies of gods by the force of my virtue, and then dwell and play with goddesses in streams that gently flow into bathing pools. So we dedicate, may their sufferings be totally pacified, and then may they obtain may they obtain such happiness being in bathing pools and so forth. Play with these goddesses in streams that gently flow into bathing pools.
젠도되는 능기나 차나도 제고 이건 나도가 휴기가 전 내가 hin진으로 쇼세 되게 모두 차나도 지리 투입도 누가 쇼하면 가다와 그 차나도 지리서 다 가르치나 딴 영화 봤으면 이제 반도부들 와서 누가한테 차나 딱 누가 휴청만 누구로 딱 누가한테 차 70배 내가 누가한테 봐 내가 시기 hin지 미다 小个了说我们这把这个还是你这就说新节我新节是你这小个了什么这个能把定的话你别的你这就上那新节了知道了找我新年那这的话贵呢你把堂姐把三你掉的一个我去的啊你这上不去水上的里边上了可的那难看的钱都掉的那抢那东西能一直在抢那东西是真把我的里头 ini thonde te chana de la japsen do ini chana de la japsen do ne ro me japsen ne ra to pa ha ja gawa de shu jing ne te ne sabi japsen do de ne sabi ti pa ta ne e chana de hin jing do shu o da de ta chana de ji to jing do me ti de de to ja thwa de ro
So next outline is wishing to pacify suffering by the power of Vajrapani, and under this outline is verse 11 says, wondering why are the henchmen of Yama and the terrible ravens and vultures afraid, whose strength is the fine strength that utterly dispels darkness and generates happiness and joy. Upon looking upward, they behold Vajrapani abiding blazing in the midst of space. By the force of their strong joy, may they be freed from negativities and be in his company. So those sentient beings who abide in the house, and then may they be free from this suffering. So then, and then why are the henchmen of Yama and terrible ravens and vultures who act to harm me in this abode of the house afraid? So these henchmen of Yama, they manifest in the form of vultures, in the form of henchmen and etc. And then who are very scary to behold. And then who are they afraid? Then who finds strength utterly dispels all darkness and generates bodily happiness and mental joy. So when then we look upward and then we see Vajrapani, then we take refuge in Vajrapani, and then by the force of their strong joy, then may they be free from negativities and be in his company. So having gone for refuge in Vajrapani, and then by the force of Vajrapani, so may these sentient beings be free from those suffering and always be in his company. Next outline is wishing to pacify suffering by the exalted compassion of Genresic. And under this outline is verse 12, says, having seen the fire of the house splattered and extinguished by a falling rain of flowers mixed with scented water, immediately satiated with bliss and wondering what has caused this, may the hell beings behold Padmapani. And next is dedication in relation to Genresic. Furthermore, having seen the fire of the house splattered and extinguished by a falling rain of flowers mixed with scented water, immediately satiated with bliss and wondering and looking for what has caused this. So, what had caused this? Then may the hell beings behold Avalokiteshvara, the holder of lotus in hand, Padmapani. So this is a dedication by making a supplication prayer to Genresic in order to and dedicate these roots of merit to free all sentient beings from suffering. Next outline is wishing to pacify suffering by the miracle of Manjushri. And under this outline is verse 13, says, friends, discarding fear come from the distance. Why flee when directly in front of us is the one by whose strength we are freed from suffering and the force of joy emerges. The one who thoroughly protects all migrating beings and has generated bodhicitta and mercy. The youthful one with a blazing top knot who removes all fears. Summoning friends or calling friends, one calls out, friends, please come, please come. Discarding fear of the house, come from the distance. Who will flee when directly in front of us is the one by whose strength we are freed from bodily suffering, and a force of joy emerges due to removing mental fears. So by whose strength refers to the strength of Manjushri. And then one who has generated the light that protects all migrating beings, and the fire of mercy, the youthful one, with a top knot blazing with light, who removes all our mental fears, and they come.
어디 올라들어와 최저 하지 집에 가기 자지 보면 이제 투지는지 올라면 또 뒤에 저지 전에가 거지고 아무 뭔가 예 그게다 내가 된다 보면 단에 쓰나 좀 멤버 휴 무엇에 어디지와 어디가 어디지.
Verse 14 says, "Behold him in an attractive mansion resounding with the melodious eulogies of thousands of goddesses, with hundreds of gods paying homage at his lotus feet with their crowns, and his eyes moist with compassion, a rain of clusters of many flowers falling upon his head. Upon seeing Manjughosha in this way, may the hell beings exclaim."
어디서 들어도 더 도다 취지 하지 주변에서 우진서 그러는 주변에서도 우진으로 우진 우진다 셔지 뼈마라 취지 투지는 어제다 때문에 올라매도 그래서 올라매도 재미게 초지 쳐 봐봐 쳐 때봐도 싫어 때봐도 그래 그 한번 공사다 때문에 이동을 가만히 봐도 되지는 이제 뒤 셔봐다 그때다 지진 장비야지 봐 지진 장비야지 약간다 우진봐 통 뜻은 나와서 가와서 그쪽은 된 것이 다시 안다 데려와 가와도 떠나지 말 가와도 떠나지 말 세소 동안 내가 다 만들어 세소 동안 내가 붙여놓은 레스트 간다 이진들 예 두개 통 좋아 이래도
To friends, one says, "Behold him in an attractive mansion resounding with the eulogies and songs of thousands of goddesses, with hundreds of gods paying homage at his lotus feet with their crowns, and his eyes moist with compassion, a rain of clusters of many flowers falling down upon his head." Upon seeing Manjughosha, then the granter of relief in this way. So upon seeing Manjughosha, then who grants reliefs in this way, then may hell beings shout out with joy.
어디다 더비게 지키는 상황이 전주 생각 지구의 대화다 시기 지기 아니 오늘 디디지 샤 관서 조진지 당지는 그거 내가 디디지 샤네 어제만 와서 디디만 잡아치는 있어 야 내가 다 처음에 조진지 당했어
We will stop here, and then we will complete the rest in next class. So, do you have any questions? And you can ask now. If yes, then you can ask now.
저 제마들은 아주 좋아요. 내가 제스. 제마는
진짜 제마.
이제 나도 좀 좋아하는 거.
So yeah, so if you have any question, you can ask now, or if you next class, and we are going to allocate time for question and answer, then you can also ask in next class as well, which is the last class of Bodhisattva Deeds.
근데 뭐가 디디지 마서 말 지금에서 하셔. 내가 가서 디디지 마지나 참고 말아. 그다음에 디디로 러시아에서 와.
So this dedication chapter, I will go through them briefly. Otherwise, then it will take a long time.
Kishala, I got a question to ask, Kishala.
Yes. Yeah.
Under the verse 3,
Yes.
the highest happiness of this chapter 10, verse 3, the highest happiness, which is the ultimate happiness, that will be equivalent to Buddhahood for oneself and for others, isn't it?
You mean this unsurpassable happiness, right?
Yes. Ultimate happiness.
So you're asking unsurpassable happiness or the ultimate happiness? Does it refer to the state of enlightenment or Buddhahood?
Yes, Buddhahood, yeah.
So ini ngaco cici summa cici summa di kasa delana mebe dewa gyumi cheba top shows yo ini di kasa de sangi gi gopang de segi onas
예. 달라는 미리 대화를 가서 상지 공부를 하게.
that's all.
라는 의미가 왔어. 그러와.
음.
라는 왜 봤으나 대화 대 고난 왜 봐요. 대 고난 그러와.
That's all. Yeah, yes, unsurpassable happiness refers to the state of enlightenment. And when he says unsurpassable, he also means that there is no happiness surpasses that. So therefore, it's called unsurpassable. There's nothing higher.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, Ken.
Yes.
Yeah, Peggy here. Can I just want to ask, previous class, Geshe-la said, person is merely imputed by conceptual thought on the basis of imputation on the aggregates, I, the imputed object. This constitute will becomes analysis of suchness. Based on this explanation, maybe Geshe-la can explain what is the constitutes analysis of conventions.
May I know what is the number of the verse?
You can refer to page 309.
Page 309.
309. The verses is 9.150.
09, hold on. Page 309. Constitutes page 309.
Yes.
309. Analysis constitutes an analysis of suchness.
Yes.
Sure. So, CGA, 가서 시합 딜레우, CGA 개당납 주 AB, 납기야 두주 제시. 근데 데코나니라, 디오라, 데코나니라 지바 조미드 사치니 민기 타니 따바 잠기 마침바 타니 주베시 지다 유츠 에드니 주바네 데코나니라 주바 드나와 에네나 기실라기 양딩아서 나세야디 아나디 강사세야디 양 다시 폼볼라 때니 나 따바 잠제스 남바도 나가스 남도기 따바 잠제 또베 따바 잠기제스 에네디 아주 가자디 한 도쿄 디치와이나 이디
다시 보고를 때문에 로이 파다.
로이 파다.
로이 파다. 너도 계시거든.
또베 파다. 그럼제스 애니 데코는 주바 조기 좋아하실라.
예당진 지금 말해라고. 다시 풍보를 때문에 로이 파다방 자리 안도 대자지 예칭 바시는 지금 말해서. 다시 풍보를 때문에 로이 파다방 자지 마체바 다시는 누가 먼저 따대 짜고 했어. 따든데 따든 나서데 요미디 찍어와. 찍고 했어. 근데 찍어이나 그때 권한이 줘봐. 로이로. 내가 다시는 파다바 짱지 이치바 되나 되잖니 해서. 내가 따든 나서데 한테 뭐니 가자디 요미 유튜브에 가리미 대주바 찍어와. 근데 권한이라 대주바 도에스. anything also 군족 주가 디 주주 간디 나사 군족바 주주 군족 최이나 간다 기나 대가는 가서 풍보대 군족으로 와. 풍보대 군족 위치로 와. 군족 대마로 와. 군족 최에서 제가 군족 대마 하고 있어. 들어와. 된다 집버려. 그래서 배셔가는 가서 또 대고 양을 공부를 배셔는 대버려. 풍보를 배셔는 대버려. 아주 다시 풍보대 군족 대마로 와. 풍보대. 풍보대 군족 대마로. 다 풍보대 다시 연락와서 봐서 자시 도마 초발 때에 받다 봐요. 풍보대. 다시 자시라. 다시 풍보. 자시다 가서 라바다 깜바라서 마모지오라. 다시 풍보대. 풍보서 열어. 라바다 깜바 연락 그 마모제 때니 다시 연락 삼아 초발 때에 풍보가 따봐. 따봐. 그래서 따봐자지 마체바 데디 풍보대 다시 레레 응원에 누구도 다됐잖아. 야 내주요 말이야. 가리다나 다된데 다시 다되데 다시 보고 다시 빼나 다 감바다 라바레리 다시 가만데 그거 제가냐 니야게요 말이지 다됐잖아 니야게요 말 군도바 덴발 파 맞아 제바지네 두서에서 맞아 와 제바지네 단대된 것을 강사를 쓰셔보고 와 강사를 제바지에 두서 와 강사를 담이라 와다 보고다 가서 제바지에 와 이거 덴발 군조 대마대 단학 대권한이라 주바 조 세대양 디카사한테 된담
된당 덴바기 쭈바 제당 더 보지 로이라
단디도 말이야.
된당 덴바기
취지 담에와.
된당 덴바
공부를 가서 취지 담에. 공부랑 신tum도 제바치 취지 담에 그 식으로와. 강사가 담에 가서 강사를 제바치야 되와.
지상 공기 간디 간디 쉬어 대양 군족 덴바 쭈바 제당 데 간디지 나사 간디 디 쭈바 제와이나 데 군족 덴바 디 쭈바 디 차게레스 가이스나 어서 단다 단다 어서 디 데코나니 나도 단다 데코나니 데 어서 단다 나도 단다 디 쭈바 치야 된 소원이 가자 디 폼보라 다시 폼보라 때네 디 가자 로이 파다상 마심바 아니 디안 다된나 세야 디안 유메 디안 어서 디안 제바 치고라 예와이나 유나니 디안 디 가사 가사 다 두기래야나 디 다디라 시 두기로 와이나 그리 디 딘디 삼부땅 와이나 쭈바 디 데코나니라 쭈바로 ini diang kunzop la jueba la jueba de juedang de kan de jing
다 집벌에 군도 대만 넣어줘. 내가 가서 공부 대가라. 공부 대가서 군도 대만와 시기가 바자는 시험가.
제가 군조 덴바야나 군조 덴바 라 jueba야나 데코나니 라 jueba se de 시라라 de 게
치워자고나. 나 대코나를 쳐봐서 다 된다 대만 가서 된다 대만와.
예 되는 덴바로
그 군도 비치에서 나고나 가서 군도 비치 다 가서 공부
jueba 제당 지간이 나스
그 다가 됐습니다. 이거는 군도 공부도 군도 비치어 봐. 군도 대만와. 다 군도 비치 공부도 봐 상황단이 그 공부도 다시에나 초반에 공부에서 발로 따봐. 파다바자. 예스. 파다바 되려면 이 다시 공부 연락 와서 말해. 이거는 이제 공부도 두고도 먼저 제바 제와이나 제바는 다 개투해요 말와. 왜요? 근데 두스나 또 공부되는 것이 두고 그랬어. 근데 두바나 공부하는 것이 두고 그랬어. 또 공부하는 것이 두고 말해서 말와.
네 대삼로땅 와이나 야나 대주바 제와이나 대코나니 라 주바 차기 제 야나 대 된다 군족
나도
대바
그 말을 듣지 봐라. 나한테 대코나니 제바서 나도 그 말을 제바 제보라. 가서 다도 내 말에 했다. 가서 다도 누구서 와. 대코나니 누구 제바 제보.
공부해야 되러
나 공부를 자고 당와도 취지 담에 제바 제야 누구로 와. 취지 담에 최다 그 말을 들어와.
대코나니 라 주바당 된담 군족 대바 라 주바 제당 대 케바 가려요나
제가 군도 대마스네. 군도 대마 샤는 취지반 외선에 sha고려면 되게 sha게요 말해서. 취지 외선에 당가서 공부에 파샤네.
군족 대바 지 베나차샤나 풍보대 샤와이나 아니 대 주바 제당
그래서 간다 즉 가리기는 디그레스. 뭐다 군도 대마 가리샤는 디그레스. 제가 가리샤는 디그레스. 내 권한이 두마도 제가 제사데.
대랑시 요메라고
요메데 제가 제.
맞소
라기 두바 요메 제가 제.
대단다니 대코나니 라 주바 군족 대바 대 주바 제와이나 양 다든 풍보라 양 강바 라바제라 대 유메 대 기보라 랑신기 주기 요메 대 기차 말어
나 풍보 라바 강바 강라마데 풍보지 두고 내가 많이 두고 근데 라기 두고 말해서 나간다
지상니 대 군족 대바 주바 대 차하러
그 최상 집집아 지서 실에 집아 지서
주시 가자리 다시라 대자 주시 대라 레기요로 아니 대 주시 대 가자 군족 대바지 나 베나 차차나 봉보 야나 봉바 대조 아니 대 주바 제와이나 대양 군족 대바
제가 지고 취 담에 레도도 제반도 취 담에 두군도 모두 아주 부모는 제가 내 권한을 제반도 제서 된다 집바지 참아 집바지 내 권한을 제서 맞아 다 공부를 전한테 가래 옆에는 제반도
지상니 제코네니 라 주바당 군족 대바 주바 군족 대바 라 주바 지야 대 케바 요 말이스 다시 대 케바레 마도
다시 쳐보자고 다시
아니 대코나니 라 주바세 대 감사 나 대조로
다 공부를 제가 대코나니 제반도 진짜 하는 거 지금 공부되는 이 주마도 제가 제가
그래서 대 랑신기 대 주바 가자지 랑신기 주마도 대 주바 마체와이나 아니 대 군족 대바 대 군족 대바 주바 대 차가레스 대 랑신기 주마도 대 삼부땅 와이나 다시 대 양 공부이나 양 아니 대 랑신기 주기 요메 아니 양 대코나니 라 주바 대 차가레와 그래서 지난해 군족 대바 라 주바 대양 가서 지지라 풍부 유매 데 다지 지하와 데
다
요와이나
군도 대에 대코나니 제바체다
음.
간사리 대코나니 제바체다 지바로 와다 나가서 간사리 다음에 두고 제바체 오라 다 군도 대바체 동반이 두고 제바체 군도 대바체 대코나니 두고
지상에 데 다시 데 주시 데라
주시도
라레요
맞아 이게도 맞아 지도 공부 간사도 계속 시고로 와 다시 간사 들어와 간사대 가서 다시 공부를
강사데 주시데 강사이나 데코나니라 줘봐
그래서
제레
시대 공부 들어와 간사대 너무 제바체 시대 공부 들어와
시대 부모래
공부 들어와 공부 제바체 시대 공부래 다시 나 간사대 다시 공부 되라 때에 간사래 제로 맞도 간사대 다시 공부를 맞대 봐이나 대 대비지 나와지 주스나 다도 주는 거야 해로 간사 근데 대단지 공부를 따바다지 샤와이나 대 권한인데 두근도 못 대체받아 이거 말해서 다시 공부를 맞아 공부도 여러 와서 봐라 따바다지 대와이나 대 권한이 어쩌고 너무 말해서 다시 공부때 공부 다시 여러 공부때 나빠 강발라서 봐 여러 강가라 때문에 따바 맞지 여러 강발라서 봐 레고는 두근도 못 대체받으면 대 권한이 어쩌고
지상에 데 군조 덴바 줘봐세 데양 가자 다시 풍부 추진으로 인데 다시 연라 차시라 때네 딜로이 파다 잡제스 데 지보 데 삼로 당와이나 인데 군조 덴바 줘봐 차기르스
군도 덴바 제바스 와시다 요마
고와시라 요아이
군도 덴바 제바스 시 아주 대관이나 제반도 문도 세티요와 얘가서 되래 지바샤 다시 풍부 다시 풍부
탄이기 줘봐세야 돼요 어디서 탄이기 줘봐 내가 군조기
탄이디 요메 지바
탄이 잡네
탄이디 요메 대상제 대상제 가서 대포는 지바 너무
나서 지상에 기샤라 단다 데 군조 덴바 줘봐세야 돼
오메 군조 장 지바스는 탄이디 요메 장이요 대상제
그래서 데 탄이 요메 잠기 데 라와이나
대상제 그랬지
데 잠라 데 가서 데 하이 하진데 유메
탄이 잠기
탄이 잠도 유메 잠데 줘봐 제와이나
군조 장 제바라지
지상에 대한 탄이기 줘봐 야나데 된담 군조 덴바기 줘봐 데 제니 지바이나
같이
야나데 군조 덴바기 줘봐
군조 덴바기 제바스나 다 든디쇼
탄이 지라요 말을
요메 제바데 그래서 시고르면 이 군조 덴바 제바스나 다치다 군조 덴바 제바스나 가서 군조 덴바 요메나 제바치선 시 이렇게 시고르면 이시야 요메 군조 덴바데 맞아 덴바 투마토 제바치선 시레스나 시레스 덴바 투마토 제바치선 시레스 다 군조 단다 군조 제바치마지서야 군조 탄이 요메 되게 다시 제바치야지
그시 공기 라요 데 지산에 대한 군조 덴바기 주바 탄이 랑양 요마라
군조 덴바 코란페 제바치선 시레메 레마르데 레라 정도했어
주바 시야기 시디 코나니라 주바 제베 시지 레마도 에니디 저 단다 디 주바 제기 요마라 데 탄이기 주바 데 제기 요마라
탄이 장 제바 권자나다 누가레스
so if you're so here it says constitutes analysis of suchness, right? Then as mentioned, as explained by Geshe-la, so without being satisfied with mere imputations by name conventions, then we checked whether the imputed object exists or not, or exists inherently or not, and etc. So in that constitutes analysis of suchness. So if you're and then the analysis of whether or not Devadatta has come or not and the like constitutes analysis of conventions. So if you're asking about what constitutes analysis of suchness, so this could be one of the examples, the analysis of whether or not Devadatta has come or not, or analyze whether a Devadatta exists conventionally or not. Exists or not, exists conventionally or exists or not, then this constitutes analysis of conventions. So and also analysis of suchness. Analysis of suchness, even those conventional truths For example, Devadatta, for example, aggregates, for example, vast and etc. Those are conventional truths. Then if you, and those can be the basis for one's analysis of suchness. So then the vast then becomes the vase become the imputed object, and then you checked whether this imputed object vase exists inherently or not, without depending on its basis of imputation, for example, parts and branches. Then if you were to relate this conventional truth, one of the conventional truth, for example, vase, to whether it exists whether it exists inherently or not, or whether it is merely imputed by the thought or by the conceptual thought on the basis of imputations or not, then it will become an analysis of suchness. So if you only ask about analysis of conventions, so what constitutes analysis of conventions? Then basically analysis of whether or not Devadatta has come or not, analysis of whether or not a vase exists, then because aggregates exist, then these will constitute analysis of conventions.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's really shawty.
So we stop. We stop here.
That means our little chicken with the body. That's all the man jealous. To our career, the associates, jealous to a month, yes, and to achieve this much Chinese.
So if you have any questions, then you can ask in next class. Then we will allocate more time for question and answer.
Again, our little chicken with the body. The jungle to the special policy. But the thing to want to show the Jabata. Or I don't know, got it over the gentleman's one. Kaji, choose a machine of the things short. Vegetarian machine. I will see to me by you the near Chido. I'm bound to depend you to are the
We conclude with dedication. We dedicate these roots of virtue to the flourishing of Buddha Dharma and to the excellent happiness of all sentient beings. And we also dedicate these roots of virtue to all upholders of Buddha Dharma, illustrated by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, to live eons long, to have excellent health, and may all their enlightened activities and holy wishes be accomplished instantaneously and spread in all directions. And we also dedicate these roots of virtue to our beloved teacher, Gebshi Lama Sopo Rinpoche, to Gebshi Chiso Rinpoche, and also may their unmistaken reincarnations be swiftly returned and be swiftly found. And we also dedicate these roots of virtue to world peace, and may excellent happiness prevail throughout the world.
Thank you.